Greetings, Internet, and welcome to the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer. With me, as always, is Nicholas Osborne and the one and only Scoop Johnson. Scoop, I didn't get a chance to tell you last week, but welcome back, buddy. We've missed you.
Oh, thanks, man. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But anyway, our guest this week is the one and only artist extraordinaire of Way of X and recently of Captain America, Bob, a.k.a. Bobbington Quinn. Bob, how the heck are you?
I'm just fabulous. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So, Way of X, kind of a big hit out of the gates, dude. How are you feeling?
I have no idea. It's really unbelievable. I've really never gotten to work on, I've worked on some really cool projects, but nothing that's had the reaction that this has had. It's been really phenomenal. Yeah, so just feeling good, coming into work every day, energized, ready to try to draw better than yesterday. That's about it.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that you've had what could be called a pretty meteoric rise in recent years.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got titles like Red Sonja and Lone Ranger in your resume, and then, okay, Captain America, that's pretty cool, working with Ta-Nehisi Coates, and then bang, Way of X hits, and it's like, I mean, everybody is singing your and Cy Spurrier's praises right now. What is it like being on a book that is kind of the crown jewel of the X line right now, which is already firing on all cylinders?
I I wasn't even ready for a question like that, and I probably should have been. You know what? I don't know. The funny thing is I don't, outside of occasionally a bunch of people talking to me on Twitter, which is nice, and being hey, that's a nice drawing. I'm like, thank you. For the most part, my day-to-day doesn't change too much. Mostly I sit here until my pages are done, and then I maybe go eat dinner. I mean, it feels great, and I'm super excited about it. And it's like when I was working on it, I was like, yeah, I think we're doing something kind of special here, with even amidst the specialness that is already the X-Men line.
Right.
But then I was like, well, it's like, especially for me anyway, I have imposter syndrome, the worst of maybe anybody on Earth. And I was sitting here going, I was like, I don't know why they asked me to draw Captain America. And I'm all like, I don't know why they asked me to draw Champions. And I was like, hey, do you want to work on an X book? I'm like, I'm not ready for that, but yeah, I'll do it because you asked me. You know what I mean? So I just kind of sat down and did it and just tried to do the best I could. And then the fact that it was resonating with people was really great. And for the most part, not too many people said I stunk it up. So I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's good enough for me, to be honest with you.
I got you. So, what is your collaboration process like with Cy?
I get a script in from the good people at Marvel Entertainment, and then I read through it, and then I will send any questions that I have regarding sequences and stuff like that. Sort of like, hey, what was in your head? What are you thinking for this? Stuff like that. And then I will obviously send by a bunch of requests to Marvel Editorial for any reference requests I have if I don't know what something is. And then, I basically just kind of break down scripts as needed and, do layouts, send all my stuff by, and, hope that everybody's cool with what I did.
So, I mean, and I think you've kind of already answered this, but it sounds like that scenario gives you quite a bit of room to play.
Oh, it's phenomenal. So I've spent 12 years making video games, and the thing that I realized after 12, I'm a little stupid, so it took me 12 years to recognize that I can't have a boss. It makes me nuts. So I found this job that is sit at my house and draw pictures, and for the most part, nobody gets in my business. And I was like, awesome, this is exactly the kind of job that I need, where I can just sit down, do my thing, get better at it as I can get better at it. And then for the most part, because nobody else on the team can do what I can do, they leave me alone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mike, go ahead and jump in, man.
That's great. Speaking of your time in the video game industry, what's been the biggest challenge leaving the video game industry and then coming into being a full-time artist and then working on books like Champions and Captain America and X-Men and stuff like that? Kind of where you're from, where you came from then and where you are now.
The honest to God, the only really big challenge is just that I took a fairly significant pay cut. but like it was, it was a situation where I was like, well, I can keep doing this job that's making me crazy, or I can just try this thing which I've like kind of always really loved and just go for it. And I went for it, and it's like, I took a pay cut, but like it wasn't so bad that like, my wife and I are in trouble or anything like that. It was just kind of like, okay, well, I was, making senior producer money, but now I'm like much happier and, doing what I'm doing. So, we're doing okay. It's okay. Everything's good. I gotta be honest with you, like the biggest challenge is loving it too much.
Ooh, right?
Ooh, yeah. That's the interview question, right? Like I work too hard.
You work too
hard, like
I have too high expectations of myself.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and then turning it off, right? Because like I work out of my house, right? And then the temptation is like, well, it's just in there. It's just in the office. I could go work on it right now, even after like it's 11 o'clock. My wife's gone to bed. I should probably be relaxing. I'm like, I could probably get another couple panels out, but
Definitely. I really love that, actually. I think that passion is what keeps the comics going and what keeps everybody super interested. And I love what you brought to Way of X. It's very noticeable that you love comics. But I want to dive into a little bit of some of the research and maybe homework that you did jumping into Way of X, because I recently just caught up on the whole Krakoa era, and it took me like over a month to read all of this stuff because there's a lot happening.
So there's a pile of books.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what did it look like for you when you get handed Way of X? Were you already caught up, or did you kind of have to do some reading to get to that point?
So I actually literally have it sitting right here as my hardcover of Hoxpox, and that's what I had read before coming into this. Like previously, it's like I'd read, I read New X-Men during the some of the Academy X days, and all of my friends were passing around Fatal Attractions when Wolverine had all of his adamantium pull. Like, look at this, oh, it's so gross, right? Like, and so like I've been around it, but like for the current X-Men era, I'd really only read Hoxpox, and like even that stuff was like to me was so dense in some places. I was like, all right, like I kind of like, all right, but the thing about it that was really cool is that it for me at least, it really opened up a lot of new opportunities to exploit what is really good about sci-fi and comics, which is the ability to examine things that are happening today through the lens of sci-fi, right? And I think maybe X-Men, definitely, everybody knows that it's been an analogy for racism or whatever marginalized person has kind of been out there. But like I think changing this just a hair, right, to this whole new, like they said, the new normal, right, has opened up all new vistas for new things to explore through these people's eyes. It's I don't know, it's really cool, and I'm very excited that I've been able to contribute to it even in the small way that I have. So
right, absolutely. And Way of X is, I mean, if you talk to a lot of people, it's not really even a small way. Way of X is pretty big right now. With the
I credit Cy Spurrier with 99% of that. Like the things that he's done with this book are really phenomenal. Like, because I'm sitting here and I'm getting these scripts and I'm like, oh wow, he's really threading the needle here of like this sort of incredible philosophizing, but like it's also kind of an exciting story, and then like there's this really cool mystery, and oh my god, these cliffhangers are so good. It's like the ability to create to weave a tapestry of that much crap together in these books that are only 20 pages is really a testament to how good of a writer he is. Like, and I'm incredibly lucky to be able to work with him. Like, and I have no misgivings about whose name is probably selling most of these books, right? Like, he's just amazing. So
it really is. I think it's honestly just a fantastic pairing, but it's something the whole X team has done right now in this Krakoa era is bring, constant great teams to these books, and they're putting out awesome work. So you're right in line with that. But
yeah, I think to your point, I think they were pretty good at identifying at least that Cy and I think more so than most pairings that I've had in the past with books, tonally fit together very well. Like, I really kind of like, I like the sort of like LSD comics of it all, like the sort of getting into the cerebral headspace. Like my goofy friends call me Cerebral Bob, right? So like I'm super into this crap. Like I like the kind of moody stuff, but I also like gross out humor, which is all over this thing, right? Like so,
yes,
it was like the nice pairing of being kind of moody, but also being funny, and like finding the places where there is humor. And I don't know, it feels very natural, like working on his scripts. And I'm like, yeah, this is probably how I would have broken it down too.
That makes a lot of sense. I think there's a natural state of this progress that we see, and you kind of see that synergy in the book. Do you get to work a lot with the Greater X team in general? You've got Hickman kind of leading that charge, and there's a whole collaboration process with there. Are you involved with that, or are you mainly with Cy and your editors?
No. The artists are probably intelligently kept out of that conversation because we're all maniacs. So. They're like, you want to talk about the state of the human soul? What if they were all punching each other instead, right? Like we're idiots. So
and throwing fungi out of their head.
Yeah. Although that was Cy. That was not my idea. I simply managed the look of the coif, right? Like, that was my job.
Well, and it's a very neatly kept coif of multi-hued fungi.
Hey man, if you're
gonna, Dr. Nemesis's head.
If you're gonna experiment on your own brain by growing fungus out of it, you better look good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and who is Dr. Nemesis if not a dapper asshole?
Yeah, very much exemplified by our book, I think.
Oh, absolutely. So looking at like your style in the comics pages, you have a really obvious grasp on emotional range coupled with a good sense of humor. I mean, what's your process like? Like, how do you find yourself in such ways that you're able to express who you are as a person so well through your line work?
I think so. I've had a number of. So I've already talked about one of my many nicknames. Before, when I was in the games industry, I used to be called the Human Cartoon, and I got that because every face I make naturally tends to be very big. Like one time, I was throwing out the garbage and I missed our dumpster completely, and it went over the fence into the neighbor's yard. At which point, I turned around to my wife and I just went, "Oh!" with like this, and like that's not even an exaggeration. That's literally what I did. So it's just like I think I naturally I just make big faces. So like the opportunity to draw big faces, and plus big faces play well in what's drawing comics the Marvel way, right? Like if you're gonna wind up all the way the wind up or all the way through the end of the punch. So if you're going to do a face, you better do your face pretty big. Otherwise, it's not going to play, right? Like, it's like subtlety plays pretty good sometimes, but other times you got to do the big face. So that's what I'm bringing to myself. I'm just putting my own dumb face in every panel in the biggest way I can.
Well, it works, though, because like Nick was saying, Way of X is such a deft mix in general of philosophy and more philosophy and religion and spirituality and by the way, there's X-Men stuff happening too, and puking. And I mean, I don't know how you find the balance there, but I mean, 2 issues in, you've done it so far.
Yeah, I'm not super sure how you do it either. You just kind of have to it's weird. I think because of sort of my hit, I come from a long line of engineers and carpenters, so I was the only one who decided they wanted to be a rainbow maker, right? So I have to sit here and I want to be an artist or whatever. But like when I'm breaking down scripts and breaking down pages, it's almost math homework in a way. Like it's how do I guide the eye properly? How much space does this one need for dialogue? What's actually the important part of this page? And it's sort of like arranging all those puzzle pieces into a thing that hopefully tells you a story and doesn't look like garbage, right? Like that's essentially that's how I sort of approach it from a storytelling and autistic perspective. Math homework.
Math homework.
Idiot.
Nerd.
Okay, so we have gone officially 15 minutes. I think it's far enough into it that I can ask about a certain character named Soft Serve who has showed up on Twitter.
Damn it!
Oh yeah, I'm not
right.
not joking about this. I'm gonna throw it up on the screen so people can take a look at it for themselves.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. We've got Soft Serve Deep hidden in the background. Tell us about this character.
All right. Here's what happened. I was at the laundromat waiting for the laundry to be done, and I was bored, and I drew a picture, and I gave it a stupid voice balloon that said, "No, Professor Xavier, I poop ice cream. I poop ice cream better than anyone," and that's it. That's all it was. And if you do this job long enough, you sit I sit here for many hours a day, and it's not maddening, but you definitely like start needing to find ways to amuse yourself. And I was like, screw it, I'm gonna throw her in the background. We'll see what happens. And the dumbest thing about it is I was like, nobody's gonna care. This is gonna be a joke that 5 people will laugh at because it's so childish. And it blew up on Twitter, and then Screen Rant wrote an article about it, and then it was on some Reddit thread that did like 600 something upvotes or something. I don't even know what it was. And I was so worried. I was like, they're gonna fire me. They're gonna fire me for this dumb joke. I can't believe it. I kept it was like this neat. I took the pinned tweet down. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to get in trouble. For this stupid joke I threw in the background that nobody would have noticed if I hadn't pointed it out.
I have to say, I did not even believe it was real whenever we first saw it, because it came up on another thread, and I was like, no way, is this actually happening? And then
You'd never see it. You would never ever see it. If I hadn't pointed it out, nobody would have noticed. Like I pulled up the original line art for a bunch of friends, and I was like, she's in there, and they're like, where? It's like a Where's Waldo for it's a Where's Waldo for potty humor. Right. And nobody stopped it, and my editor saw it, and he didn't yell at me, so I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm all right. I hope. We'll see. If Jordan's in my email tomorrow and I get in trouble, then I'm blaming you guys for bringing this up.
Well, at least Jordan will know we exist. So.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We could all be so lucky.
Jordan, coming soon to the Comic Watchers Show.
There you go.
We've yet to have an editor. Now that we bring it up, we need to try to make that happen, Nick.
Hey man, there a ton of them are out there on the internet. So
I want to get like an angry X editor that EX former, not X.
Yeah.
I see.
And just yes, every time we ask a question,
we need
take
the fireworks. We need
this
guy torching the office.
Here.
Yeah.
Tom DeFalco, tell us why you're called Two-Fisted.
I'll tell you why I'm two-fisted. Yeah. You're not going to get that from me.
Beat the shit out of that McFarlane punk when he quit.
If only I'd let Silvestri do his X-Men with the cybernetics, none of this would have happened. Why couldn't I see it?
Why? My own Kristen Beard.
Yeah. This is actually pretty wonderful, but we can dig a question out of this because I know some fans are interested about what the editorial experience is with the X-Men.
Sure.
It feels like there's a lot going on there. Like there's constantly, you need to be doing this, or this is where we need to be. Is that sort of what your experience is, or is it a little bit more freedom?
I have, the way, here's my understanding of how it works, because so all the writers I know are in a Slack together. They're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. My understanding is this is basically how it worked. Is it Hawks Pox set up a bunch of stuff in the universe and a bunch of stuff that they just kind of left unresolved. Hey, here's a thing. Hey, here's a thing. Just kind of throw, as opposed to throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, it all stuck, right? And then it is the job of the writers to go, oh, this strand looks good. Yum, 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 yum. This strand looks good. Yum, 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 yum. And then that's how we're sort of building out the larger universe, right? So now the artists and stuff like that, I'm not in any of those meetings really, so I don't super know how it works, but my understanding once again is that, they will work together, and that Mr. Hickman is I don't know if you're supposed to call him that. Maybe he's just, I've never met him, but he's very good at going to bat for people's ideas and very good at helping the writers sort of fill in maybe where hey, this part's not quite working. Like he's a good script doctor in that way, but also willing to, go to bat for an idea that he believes in with, various higher ups who are like, well, we don't want that because my suit's too tight or whatever. I don't know. I'm assuming those people are there, like, for years and years and years, I worked at Disney. They had standards and practices people, and they'd say that thing looks too much like a dick, or this thing isn't right for the children. Will think that this is the wrong thing, right? So, like, those people, I'm sure, are over there. The sort of enemy of fun people that sort of wear the suits and make it so you can't do anything interesting. But like, to his credit, from what I understand, he's very good at sort of like smoothing things over and saying, no, here's why this is an important thing and it's a good idea and why we should do it. And, again, going to bat for good ideas to make sure that what ends up in the comic reader's comic collection isn't a piece of crap and isn't like super boring and distilled down to nothing, right? Like we can talk about big, crazy ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think part of what's resonating, well, one of many parts that's resonating right now with the Krakoa era of X-Men is just the fact that all of this crazy ass shit is happening, but it all feels holistic and attached and part of a cohesive narrative, and without anybody really stepping on their toes or there being a bunch of contradictory continuity from book to book and things like that. I'm again, like I'm an X-Men reader for the last 30 years, and I can't recall the last time if ever the entire X-Men universe has been like this tight.
It felt so cohesive, right?
And just so cohesive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you take a special, like, and with you being cognizant of that, do you take any sort of special like badge of honor or what have you to continue to perpetuate that good level of quality storytelling with soft serve in the background?
With very specifically with poop ice cream. No. Look, people, for all those of you that are grossed out, she doesn't actually poop ice cream. Her body is a portal to the ice cream dimension. It's not gross. It's fine. Anyway, no, so I don't necessarily, right? Like, I do take it as my job to try to make sure that everything fits together as much as possible, right? Like, making sure that, I take it upon myself to make sure that I'm referencing other books when I can, to make sure that I understand how things look, to make sure that everything feels correct, right? Because essentially that's my job. But I think the sort of cohesive nature of it comes from, I think that writer's room is just really tight. Like, I think they get along with each other very, very well. And I think their constant communication with each other is a big additive bonus, right? Like, I don't know how much stuff like that was able to be easily facilitated in previous years, right? Like, we didn't, maybe they could have made a Facebook group and talked to each other, but like, literally, I understand that they all have Slack on their phones. Like, they're all constantly talking to each other, right? And I think that easy, free exchange of ideas is keeping people cognizant of, okay, this is what's happening in Sword, right? This is what's happening in Planet Size X-Men, right? So, like, they all know, and they're all bouncing off of each other, and they're all feeding back into that same thing, right? Like, previously, what was it? An editor would have to try to keep a bunch of different strands from 1,000 different things while they're trying to put out fires on a book. No, that doesn't work. But a bunch of creatives in a room sitting around working together, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, because they all basically understand what they're trying to do. They're not trying to just get 15 books out on time, right? They're like trying to manage the art process, trying to make sure that the colorist is turning things on time. Does the lettering work, right? Like, that's a lot of work for an editor on top of having to keep the entire universe cohesive. No, just leave that to the people who are writing it. They can handle it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I want to touch a little bit on when we first started. You said it was maybe smart that they didn't have the artists involved in those communications. Do you feel like maybe the stories, or at least the visual depictions, would benefit from a bit more cooperative environment that included more of the creative team?
So here's what I will say. I was joking about that 100%. I think. I don't think it would hurt to have the artists a bit more involved, because like my background is actually in writing. Before it's like I wrote before I ever drew, but I wrote books that nobody bought. So maybe it is good that I'm not in the writer's room. Like, hey, here's your dumb idea. It doesn't work. Yeah, wait, now that's why your books didn't sell, doofus. But But I mean, you know, it can be. I wonder if some of the stories might be better served by a more direct sort of collaboration between artist and writer, because, you know, like a writer definitely, they're going to think about, here's how I want to tell the story through the dialogue and stuff like that. But and artists often might have a different way of approaching the story visually, if this makes sense, right? Like, because like I'll get a breakdown of script and like, here's what's in the panels, and you know, when I find at least that when I write for myself, I will have a tendency to push page layouts further and experiment a bit more, just because I understand more holistically, when at least when I work for myself, what's supposed to be on the page and what the page is supposed to communicate. So I feel more comfortable taking a chance. But you know, I think when there isn't necessarily a we wrote this together kind of thing, I'm definitely trying my best to because you know, it's like, obviously the script has been approved by a ton of people by the time I get it. So ideally, I don't really want to step on it too much, right? Like, sure. I don't want to sit here and be like, I know how to do everything better, but like, maybe not, right? Like, so ultimately, I feel like my job is to look at what's there and do it as faithfully and dramatically as possible. And if there's a spot that like, this doesn't work, or this staging might be a little goofy, I'll move things around and feel a little comfortable to do that. But for the most part, right, like, my feeling is that, you know, when I get a script, I paste it this way for a reason, right? And this amount of dialogue is in this panel for a reason. You know, because it's like, if he didn't have a reason for it, then, you know, why do I have any of that stuff there, right? So if he's doing it for a reason, it's a good idea for me not to just do whatever the hell I want with it, right? So, right. I know some artists do that, but that's not how I work. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know that's kind of also contained to the Marvel experience and what you're working on and with Way of X and all that. How do you think it differs, or how do you feel it differs on your end for maybe smaller publishers or even indie books?
You know, I super can't speak to that, unfortunately. Like, you know, most of my experience is through Dynamite and through Marvel. So, you know, I've you know, I came up working with a lot of critical darling writers. So again, maybe that sort of informs my thing. It's like, what am I going to do? Tell Mark Russell how to write? No, I'm not. Right? Like, I'm going to tell Ta-Nehisi Coates how to write? No, I'm not. Right? So at a certain point, I kind of go, okay, this is that's their job. I'll do my job, and you know, like, let's not. I don't want to step on them too bad.
I get that. I mean, you've been paired with some fantastic creative talent. Right? I mean, those names alone, it's wild to think about, really. Who else out there do you feel like, you know, I'd really like to work with them? That's another name I'd like to add to my roster.
Me.
Writer, artist, maybe? You want to do your own book?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first book I ever did was my own. And then I've done a few things on my own since then, and I have a OGN coming in a couple... It's probably going to be like a year and a half. So, but with a publisher I can't talk about yet. So
sure.
But you know, I'm going to become a mogul, man. Not just X artist. I'm taking over the world. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw all the X books, because I'm apparently doing that already, and then I'm going to draw all the things I want to draw too.
Absolutely.
So, what's your favorite character that you have drawn in Way of X so far?
Kurt's a lot of fun to draw. The what?
I said bonus points if it's Nightcrawler.
Oh yeah, no, he's great. He's like, his physicality is so much fun, and you know, like, you never want to have a situation where he's just sitting on a thing, right? Like, he's going to be climbing on it or hanging out on stuff. Like, he opens up. He's always crouched, and like, it doesn't matter what you do, he's supposed to be lit dramatically, so it always looks like something awful just happened. Like, it always looks a little spooky, which is always fun.
It's all that Catholic guilt.
Yeah, well, yeah, I grew up super Catholic, so yeah, exactly. So trust me, I'm right there with you, buddy. And then I'm also a big Pixie fan, just because, like I said, I was an Academy X reader, so having her on the team has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
because and she's, you know, She's goofy, got big pink hair, floating around, having a good time. I don't know. She's fun. So yeah, those are my two faves. The what?
Like, the difference that we get in like the writers' ideas of like who their favorite is to write. There's always like these deep, complex reasons of what pushes these characters and their motivations. And then the artists, it's always so awesome to get that input because the artists are like, yeah, she's cute, pink hair, love to draw them. And
it's like what is it? This dude looks rad. That's why I want to draw. Yeah, having just come off of Cable, I'm really appreciating simpler costumes too. Like, why do you like drawing Nightcrawler? There's no pouches. There's no pouches in him. I don't have to worry about that. Just give him the pointy shoulders and a V. That's it. Easy. Love it.
Thank you, Dave Cockrum. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you genius. You beautiful genius.
Okay, so speaking to a little bit of the influences, who are some of the artists and what are some of the projects or properties that kind of help shape your own vision and your own artistic style?
So the big secret that's been coming out in all the podcasts I've been doing recently is I was not a big comic book reader growing up. I was not a big X-Men reader necessarily. Yeah. So coming up, I read almost entirely gag comic strips. And that's probably fairly evident. If you go back and look at the pages, you'll go, oh yeah, that's why he frames things that way. It's like when I initially started drawing comics, I thought I was going to be a gag strip artist and writer. Like that's what I thought I was going to do. So like when I was a kid, I read primarily Mad Magazine, right? So like all my favorites were like Mort Drucker and Dave Berg and Don Martin and Duck Edwing and all those guys, right? Mm-hmm. So
gang of idiots.
Exactly. Right. And William M. Gaines, you beautiful genius. So like that was what I thought I was going to do. But then, eventually I don't even know when it happened, but I started reading a bit more. I think it was somebody showed me Hellboy for the first time. And I was just like, at first let me back up. First was when I discovered Mark Silvestri and I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I didn't understand it because I think I'd picked up an old copy of Infinity War way back in the day, and I was like, I don't know, this is all right. But then my cousin brought home a copy of Cyberforce #1, not the first 4-issue run, but the second one. Mm-hmm. And that cover, I looked at it and I did not understand what was attacking my corneas. It was just like I was like, this is unbelievable. And you'd never know it by looking at my stuff because I don't draw anything like that. But like that was like a seminal moment for me of like, oh my God, comics are amazing. And I went back recently and read them and I was like, these are not very great. Like, they look amazing, but like the story's a mess. So like that was a big one for me. And then I kind of dropped out of comics. And then right around the time somebody showed me Hellboy, and then Scotty Young started coming up at Marvel. And then I was reading his Academy X when he was doing New X-Men. I was reading a bunch then too, and I was like, oh, so comics can be this too, right? Like it doesn't just have to be 1,000 cross-hatching tick marks and stuff like that. It can be other stuff. And then I saw Andrew Robinson's work. I was a big fan of, like all the Dusty Star stuff. Mm-hmm. Really, really love those. And then, who was it? Oh, I was reading Chew really religiously for a while. Really liked Invincible. Like Corey Walker was a big one too because of I really love the simplicity of his work, but it still worked really well. Same with Ryan Otley. Like I really, really love both of those dudes. And then I remember Sean Murphy did that Hellblazer with Cy Spencer, not Cy Spurrier. Don't get them mixed up.
Yeah,
that was really an incredible looking book, and I barely remember the story, but I remember specific panels out of that really, really well. Oh, I also was reading. I remember I still have a bunch of them here. I had the old run that Lee Weeks did on Gambit, which he's phenomenal too. Like I'm a huge fan of his work. So. Those are my big comic book influences.
Then somehow you made your way to video games instead of comics.
You know what? I can
help me out because I didn't learn this until just recently. But I mean, what were you doing in the video game world?
So I was a producer and a designer. I didn't even do any artwork at all.
Oh wow!
But basically, my job at so I worked for like Disney and THQ and Activision and stuff like that, and I worked on the publishing end. So my job was basically to sit in an office and then get a build of a game, play it, and then call up a bunch of people and go, this game sucks, make it better. Here's why it sucks. Here's how you make it better. Click. And then get called into an office and be told that I'm going to get fired next week because my game sucks. And then do all that every day for ad nauseum. I also was a designer, so I went to THQ and would actually build levels out of, various level editors and stuff like that. And then also spent a bunch of time doing casual game like Flash games on the internet. But again, that was a call people on the phone and go, this sucks, make it better, click, right? So, and then I worked for MGA, which were the people that make the Bratz dolls.
Now that's random.
Yeah, that was well. No, I'm a relationship guy. That's how I got most of my work done. At least in the games industry, right? Like I knew a lot of people, and they enjoyed working with me. And one of my old producer, my old senior producer at Disney, had gone to MGA and was like, hey, I know you're on, because this is the point where I was working at Activision. They're like, hey, I know you're at Activision, but we need somebody to kind of do this mobile game thing that we're doing, and you were the first person I thought of, and do you want to come over? And it was kind of at a point where I was kind of done working at Activision. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Because as I mentioned previously, I can't work for people, right? And I was on this constant struggle of, if I just find the right company, I'll find the right company that's not completely insane and that I can actually work with, right? So I was like, Disney's too big, they're too slow, I'll go to THQ. Nope, everybody here's nuts too. You know what, I'm going to go work at a different division of Disney. That's what it was. I just didn't have the right boss. Nope, they're still nuts. Okay, well, I'll just go work at Activision. That'll be great. They're a really successful company. I'm sure nothing bad will be happening there. Nope, everything was bad. I was like, the problem is that I work at publicly held companies. They're accountable to shareholders. I'll go to a private company. Nope, they're all nuts there too. I was like, no, the problem is me, right? Like, what is the one constant in all my failed relationships? Me. I can't do this, right? So I left and was like, it's time to do something else. So I had the opportunity to do my graphic novel. I did it. I had no safety net. I had no prospects. I knew no editors, and I was like, here's hoping, fingers crossed, let's not blow it. And I basically had no other options. And through crazy happenstance, I ended up getting a couple of gigs over at Dynamite, and then through additional crazy happenstance, I ended up getting some additional work over at Marvel. And now here I am today, like miraculously drawing like one of the biggest books in the current X-Men line. So I don't understand it. I don't know how I've been so lucky, but I'm incredibly appreciative to everybody who has read any book I've ever put out. It's really amazing.
Well, talking about that leap of faith with no safety net, your wife is clearly very patient and supportive and loving.
True.
And
I'm incredibly difficult to live with.
So say we all.
Yeah.
Nerds. And then like not only Way of X, but coming up to that, Captain America with Ta-Nehisi Coates. I mean, you just happened to land on these two thematically heavy books pretty quickly out of the gate. Like, did you just get somehow through the dumb luck get pegged as the thematically heavy books guy?
I honestly have no idea. Like, I don't know. It's really amazing because like I don't super understand, how they necessarily make the pairings over there, right? Because like I didn't go in there going, you guys need to give me Captain America. I'm gonna kill that book. It's gonna be amazing. I'm your guy. Like, it was hey, we have this opportunity. Do you want to work on Captain America with them? I was like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like an important.
Of course I do.
Yeah, like Cap. Are you kidding? Yeah, I'll draw Captain America. Now, should I? Looking back on it, do I go? Should I have? Maybe not. Right? Like I don't know that I was the right artist for Captain America. Like when I was on. It's really funny because it was a thematically. I felt like it was a thematically heavy book. I thought that it was actually saying some kind of important stuff, sort of about like the state of America and
sure, everything you would expect from Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Exactly right. Like it's totally his thing, and it's exactly what you would expect. And I look back on it and I go, was I the right person for that? I don't know. What I was the right person for was Champions, though. Like when I was on that book, I knew I was where I was supposed to be, because it was I'm real big on I don't know, for better or worse, I do think at the end of the day I'm making funny books for kids, right? And that hit a real sweet spot for me, because like it felt to that story in particular felt to me Like, it was speaking directly to kids who I was hoping would be buying the book, telling them that like they need to be the change they want to see in the world, which I think is a really important message to give to kids. And it was a really just like fun story, and it was really interesting. And like Eve is a really great writer and a really delightful person to work with. And I really, really, really love that book. And then what happened was I was like, oh, you guys, this was so much fun. If this keeps going, I want to draw it. And then I got the sweetest email from editorial going, Bob, I don't know how to tell you this, but we had already promised it is going on, but we already promised it to somebody else. And I was like, you know what? You didn't know me the email. It's totally fine. It was really, really nice of you and everything. But then I got the email going like, hey, we have something. Can't talk about it yet, but we got something. I was like, all right, well, we'll see. Cause like, I'm out here just trying to find my next paycheck, right? Like I'm sitting here cause like I had another opportunity to work for this one company and like that was kind of moving forward, but like maybe it was falling through and I wasn't sure. And then eventually they wrote back and they were like, hey, X-Men, Cy Spurrier, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. Well, sounds good. And now here we are. So
yeah. I love that. Such an outstanding story, really. I was introduced to your work on the Red Sonja run with Russell and over at Dynamite, and I was interested in it because it was such a refreshing, I guess, new take on Red Sonja, because you have her as Queen Sonja, a lot going on in Hyrcania, and I thought Russell had a lot going on in that, a lot of moving pieces. It wasn't just like, Red Sonja cuts this person in half. And as much as I wanted to see that from you, I thought you did a really good job kind of helping to build that world. And I've noticed that carry over into some of your other work and world building and that grander perspective on the over and where this is setting or where it's established and taking place. I want to talk a little bit about your work with these writers and establishing these worlds and kind of how you get to play in those and where you're at as an artist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so the crazy thing about being the big joke is, that being a comic writer is great because, basically I get to be a movie writer and I don't have to worry about budget and I can do whatever I want. I can throw a billion horses and 100 billion spaceships and the whole world can explode. But ultimately, yeah, you can't do that. I mean, like, and it becomes my job to somehow figure out how to do all that crap, right? But the other part of it too is that when you're the artist, you are the director of photography. You're the director. You're more or less the actors, right? You are the only thing you're not doing is writing the thing, right? So it becomes about how to create some of those textures, right? Like what does because the Hellfire Gala is coming up, right? Like what does a red carpet on Krakoa look like, right? And like you got to sit down there and think about what it would be made out of and how all that stuff works, right? Like. And that part's kind of fun. Like I've been, I don't know when I got into it, but I started getting into people that drew big backgrounds and stuff like that. And somebody said, I wish I could remember who it was, but some artist was like, you have to draw every cigarette butt, that's been discarded on the street with the same love and care that you draw your characters with, right? And that same level of thought should go into the stuff that you're doing. And it's like, it's that sort of puzzle piece mentality I have, right? Like I want to give the world texture, but I also need to use these design elements to guide the eye to the next panel properly, right? So, I don't know. It's all juggling. At the end of the day, it's juggling and spinning plates and hoping at some place I didn't completely drop the ball and make everything look wildly inconsistent. It's like some of it is beautifully thought out, and then some of it is just seat of your pants, hoping that you're not working for the 15th hour of the day and you didn't crap the bed on that page. This is the stupidest job, you guys.
I really love that idea because you're handling some of the most beloved characters ever.
Oh God, I know. Oh man, I gotta tell you guys, like, so the Hellfire Gala designs came out, and I got savaged by the Dazzler fans. They hate me. I was so like just heartbroken because it's one of these things where it's like you're sitting there and I'm working like Cy will be like, I think maybe it's kind of something like this, and then like I'll spit out like 15 different design ideas, all of them wildly different. And, you know, like we go back and forth and it's a very collaborative, like maybe it's something like this. Maybe we had some, maybe there's a design element like this. Oh, what if she has a cape, right? And like all this stuff. And like, oh, what? And then somebody, you know, along the way said, she's a walking light show. And I was like, awesome. Boop, this will be fun. And then I just got the meanest messages from these people. I was like, oh, geez. Sorry, man.
It's got to be so inherently weird for artists, though, with this gala stuff, because, you know, you're not just drawing comics, you're suddenly asking to be a fashion designer, to like a high fashion designer, not a comic book fashion designer. And that's not a skill that's in everybody's wheelhouse. I mean, you can come up with the coolest thing in the world, and somebody's going to take some kind of umbrage with it, which sucks, but is also real. But I mean, did you like buy up some old issues of Vogue or something to do research?
I spent a lot of time looking at fashion editorial photography. I spent a ton of time researching sort of like avant-garde designers and stuff like that. I don't know if I can screen share on this thing, and I don't know if they'd let me do it, but like I have just piles and piles and piles of drawings for the Hellfire stuff of just like all the different iterations that we went through. Like Kurt had, I want to say 16 or I probably blasted down 16 or 17 different, like wildly different ideas for him. And then Dazzler probably had the same amount. The only one who came together incredibly quickly was Pixie, I think. Like, because we always said, Sai had said at some point, he was like, what if we just kind of made her hair the sort of focal point? And I went, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because then you can just sort of do like a you know, sort of a black party dress. But even that isn't easy, because there's a billion different ways that you can cut a dress, and I didn't realize that. I was like, oh, well, just do a dress, no problem. No, it's not that easy. But like in the first probably 8 designs I threw out, we narrowed in on one immediately, and we're like, that was the one, easy peasy. And it came together incredibly quickly. But yeah, it was a real different muscle to flex. But I think it was Sean Galloway said that a big part of actually being a comic book artist is actually being a fashion designer. That always stuck out with me, even when I first started drawing, because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to Google things the way like a high school girl would, if this makes sense. Like, what is a high school girl Googling to find out what awesome clothes to wear to high school, right? Especially if you're like doing something like Champions, right? So like, how does a high school girl use Google to find cute clothes? So then I go, okay, well those are search terms she might be using, and then I get a pile of like actually kind of cool outfits that I never would have come up with on my own.
Right.
And then, you know, trying to figure out how to put those into, you know, on whoever I happen to be drawing, whether that's Ironheart or Pixie or, you know, Kamala or whoever. Right. So, because I don't know what it, like, I wear the same thing every day. Wear a t-shirt and jeans like a schlub. Right.
We're complicated.
But I've found out that the high school boys are also interested in fashion, and I didn't know it.
I think we discovered that a lot of X-Men fans are into fashion with this.
They know a lot more about fashion than they do.
They super duper are, but like you know, the thing about it that was actually really interesting is I'd never done it before, and I found that it was actually kind of fun. I was like, oh, it's neat to think, oh, like what you know, what cut on his jacket is Nightcrawler going to wear, right? Yeah. And you know, it took some narrowing, but like we eventually ended up on that crazy musketeer outfit, and I was like, it felt right as soon as we had it there. So yeah, but there were a ton of designs. I don't know if I can show those to you. I'd love to. It'd be super fun to go through them, but I don't know if I
get the clearance on that, and then we'll come back and do a
whole there we go. We'll do the Hellfire Gala follow up, and I'll show you all my different designs that didn't make the cut.
So and I'm also fascinated with the idea of like all these artists all at one point sort of researching fashion and digging into fashion as a part of an X lineup, and like I know that happened line wide, right?
Yeah, it happened line wide, and it was the craziest thing. So here are the struggles of being a Marvel artist. We knew that this gala was coming up, right? And our book had actually been greenlit way later than everybody else's. So we are like, we're connected to the gala, but not necessarily super directly the way everybody else is. Like the joke of our book is that we're the hangover of the Hellfire Gala. Like we're what happens afterward, after everybody's had their big party, right? So we were the last to be greenlit, but we were actually the first one because I'm the greatest living comic book artist. We were the first one to get there. So I was the first one to actually start trying to, I wasn't the exact first, but like we were one of the first books to actually start visualizing what the gala was. And I kept asking, I was like, because I figured it was like a big deal. Somebody had been doing some concept art for it. And like, I found out like a ton of stuff I was asking for just didn't exist. And I was like, we have to try to make this look consistent across all the books, but there's not like a central repository for all this stuff other than everybody's gala outfits, right?
Wow.
So like I was given like this huge master document of everything that everybody was wearing, but then it became this big thread of all the artists like responding to it, going, well, here's what this part of the gala looks like, here's what this part of the gala looks like, and we were all sending it to each other as we were finishing it, because it was totally crazy. And I think it all hangs together pretty nice. But I mean, like most of the stuff that is in our book was thankfully told from like directly from Nightcrawler's perspective. So it's like his arms in the foreground, like holding drinks and talking to people and stuff like that. So most of it is like, not thankfully to me because I had to drop, but like him talking to these crowd scenes of people with all these different outfits on and all that stuff. So like, luckily, if there are inconsistencies, it won't be in my book because mine are all people. If it doesn't look right, blame somebody else.
That's right. It's Adam Kubert's fault. Screw that guy.
Yeah, that's what I was saying the whole time. You heard it here first, folks. Adam Kubert ruined our book. No. That's going to get clipped and I'm going to be in trouble.
5-second clip of
this 5-second clip of me being
on.
Yeah.
He was mad because X Factor got canceled and he said fuck everybody.
I did see his cover of Way of X #5 and he didn't color Pixie's eyes right and I'm very upset about it. It's fine. I saw it and they were like, somebody pointed it out to me. They were like, but Pixie's eyes aren't black. And I was like, I don't know, maybe he knows something I don't. I haven't seen the script yet. So
yeah.
That's a good way to pass it off. Like,
yeah, exactly.
No, the Hellfire Gala to me, I know there's a lot of hype right now with fans and there's a lot of people talking about it, but it feels like a very visually creative process that has kind of put more into an artist's hands, like yourself, rather, because we haven't really seen a lot of the actual story of the Hellfire Gala.
Yeah.
Way of X #2 sort of leads right up to it, but there's not a lot that we've gotten outside of what the artists have done and released. I love the kind of slow release of this is what this person's wearing. This is what this person's wearing. It's been all over Twitter just constantly. But do you feel that weight of sort of, being a precursor to this story and leading all of these fans into this epic event for Krakoa era? And like you said, kind of being the first one to put designs out there and help give fans a visual?
Yeah, I mean it's been really incredible, and like for the like I said, for the outside of the Dazzler fans who were very angry at me, like everybody else was super positive on everything. That they're really excited about it, and I don't know, it's crazy, just sort of being able to it's crazy enough being involved in this book in the first place, but then being able to be part of these huge crossovers and like trying to put this giant, as I frequently refer to it as like this giant jigsaw puzzle together. It's just been like, this has been at equal parts like the most challenging book I've ever worked on, but it's also been like the most rewarding, both from like a fan reaction standpoint, but also from like I think my personal growth as an artist. It's just been a really fun, really rewarding, really incredible experience. Like the whole time I've been part of it. So. Very, very grateful to everybody at the Marvel offices for.
Well, I mean, we as fans are grateful, not just to you for what you're doing, but I mean to everybody involved in the X books right now. It's something special, and I'm a 40-year-old nerd that's been reading comics for 3/4 of his life, and
sure.
I mean, I've never really, like I was saying earlier, I've never seen just the level of imagination and cross-pollination and just synergy happening between so many different books. I mean, regardless of line, as I'm seeing right now from the X-Men. And it must just feel amazing to be part of it, even just, belatedly, since COVID brought Way of X out later than it was supposed to be. But
man, I tell you, it's really, I think the X team, at least, actually, no, everybody I've worked with over at Marvel has been very much the same. And I think they handle it very, very well, which is they hand good creative people toys to play with, and then for the most part they kind of go, okay, right, and they just kind of let them play with them. And if you're hiring the right people with the with the right brain power and the same passion for these characters in this world that obviously the fans have, I think in general you get good outcomes, right? Like, people who are excited to work on a thing are going to put everything they got into it, right? And I'm incredible. Like I said, I've been incredibly excited to work on this project, and I've, I don't know. I'm definitely not the best artist in the world, but I'm definitely trying my hardest. So,
well,
I will outwork anybody. That's the truth.
It definitely shows. Like, I read the issues you do. I didn't read Champions, but I picked you up with Cap. I said, okay, this guy's cool. And then Way of X comes out, and it's like, holy shit, Quantum Leap. Just a total quantum leap, and I mean, I can tell how much you're bringing to the table each issue. I mean, I know there's a creative synergy there because Cy Spurrier is the one with the scripts and all this, that, and the other. But clearly, something is working, and it's working well. So my hat's off to you, man.
I appreciate that. I actually give, funnily enough, I give that run on Champions a lot of credit for helping me sort of progress, I guess, as an artist, just because I started because it was a book for younger people. I approached the artwork a little bit differently and tried to do stuff that was a little bouncier and a little more free, because I think I'd gotten through my time with so just to, I guess, let you guys know, I was at a point where I wasn't sure sort of if I was going to have more of a long-term thing at Marvel, or if I was going to be primarily working on Dynamite stuff. And at least at that point, I was working on a lot of Dynamite stuff, and I was slowly starting to work my way into Marvel. And at a certain point, I was drawing Red Sonja and Captain America at the same time, right? And I was like going crazy, working like all kind of nutty hours, but like I think I'd gotten real stiff just as a result of having so much work on my plate. And when Champions came along, I really tried to divorce myself of that and be like, tried to free myself up and approach the pages a little bit differently. And I think by the end of Champions 5, I was not the same artist I was coming into it. And that was so yeah, I credit that run for at least some of my improvement. And then I think now at the I just started issue 5 of Way of X, and I'm just feeling more comfortable every day, which is good. But still, it's like you feel comfortable, but you don't want to get too comfortable, because the moment you're like, I'm the best artist on earth, is the moment that somebody else is outworking you, and then you're going to fall by the wayside and your stuff's going to start to suck. So I try not to get complacent, but I'm starting to feel more comfortable, I guess, while still trying to get better every day, I guess.
Right before we end, we have a message here from or a comment from Alex, who says a Red Sonja Captain America crossover is what we deserve.
I agree.
Yes, I would buy that. I would buy the hell out of that. It should be co-written by Coates and Russell. And why? Because why not? These guys don't have anything else to do.
Oh yeah.
And,
I'm sure they'll find some common ground.
yes, most definitely. And of course, drawn by you. So
let's do it.
Well, there it is. There's Bob.
We put it together here on the show, you guys. Out next month, probably.
All right, next month. Coach Russell, we'll talk. But Bob, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last hour. And
my absolute pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying at the beginning, it's a total crapshoot when you reach out to someone on on Twitter and a professional creative like yourself, and not only do they respond, but they're like, "Hell yeah, let's just do this." So
yeah, I'm shockingly easy to get a hold of. Feel free. I'll be on your podcast. I don't care.
I love it.
I probably should have been like, I don't know if I need to talk to Marvel PR about this. I never had to do it before. I don't think I said anything too controversial here.
Nah, we tried to
spoil the next 3 months worth of Way of X or anything.
Yeah, right.
But
I'm not saying anything that Cy hasn't said on something else. I watch most of his podcasts just to make sure that I don't say anything wrong.
You heard it here first. If it was wrong, it was Cy Spurrier that said it first.
Oh, great. Now, yeah.
Yep.
Later.
Although I think Marvel may have been sweating it whenever he talked about sharing his screen for Hellfire Gala designs.
Well, I mean, all the other ones are out there. I don't know what I can't think of what harm there would be in showing the things that didn't make the cut. Because I mean, there wasn't anything where like his wiener was hanging out or anything, right? It was just like they were just like different suits and stuff, right? So
yeah.
Yeah,
we're here for it. I'll do a whole show on it, like any day. We get that clearance, we're good to go.
Jordan, you heard it. You heard us. That's twice now.
I'll maybe I'll shoot an email off at some point to editor and be like, "Hey, can I show people the things that didn't make the cut or no?" So if I can, maybe we can do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'd be totally down. Well, Bob Quinn, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been the Comic Watchers Show. I am Matt. This is Nick. And we'll be back next week with writer David Pipose of the recently wrapped Scouts Honor. Until then, support your local LCS, read something cool, and above all else, be good to each other. Thank you so much. See you next time.